Qantas returned to the air this week courtesy of some old-school compulsory arbitration that was triggered by the company's high-risk grounding of its entire fleet on Saturday. Now, the planes are flying, but the issues remain: a toxic industrial relations environment and an international arm that continues to make massive losses. Neil Woolridge reports.
It had been seen as some sort of aviation Armageddon. The snap decision by Qantas to ground its entire fleet was brinkmanship that went right over the brink. But just 48 hours later, normal service had resumed. While the backlog of passengers is now clearing, the same can't be said for the ill feeling and rancour that's built up between management and unions over months of hostile and unproductive negotiations.
It was only then when we felt that it was escalating, and there was talk then of 48-hour strikes, talk again of this thing lasting for another year, that I decided on the Saturday to call a board meeting, and I made the decision that we're going to ground the airline.
So for a momentous decision to ground the entire fleet, to stand down 27,000 or 27,000 employees, that was all on your head?
That was my decision, absolutely.
On Friday, Alan Joyce fronted a Senate hearing into the Qantas Sale Act, which Independent Senator Nick Xenophon wants altered to limit Qantas's ability to hire foreign workers. Instead, a procession of senators lined up to give the CEO an ear-bashing over last week's controversial grounding and lockout.
I could have capitulated to demands that were being asked by three of the unions. Our belief was that those demands, my belief, strong belief, is that those demands were going to endanger the future of the company. And every indicator that we had, people were not travelling with us. People decided that Qantas was not going to be reliable.
There is a danger that if Qantas isn't allowed to be competitive, that it will close that segment of the business. And if that happens, of course, there's no jobs for anybody. So we'd certainly think it's in the interest of the workforce to make sure that Qantas is competitive against other international airlines.
While politicians and passengers continue to vent their anger at Qantas, among investors, the airline's chief executive, Alan Joyce, is winning plaudits.
Qantas really had two choices. They could either not do what they did, and there would have been just a long period of low-level industrial action with their customers being inconvenienced on a continuing basis, or alternatively they could use the option they did, in which case is obviously far more disruptive, but over a much shorter period of time.
Balanced Equity Management is Qantas's largest single investor, managing around 10% of Qantas's shares through various portfolios. Andrew Sisson says something needed to be done to keep Qantas competitive and arrest its financial descent.
It's been very disappointing, and in fact there haven't been any dividends since 2009. As shareholders, we're prepared to accept that because ultimately we know the airline's got to be strong, and paying out cash in this sort of environment is not the right way to go. But nevertheless, it has been a pretty difficult road for shareholders.
The rating on Qantas is BBB. This is the highest rating that we have on any airline internationally. It's a rating shared by companies such as Foster's and AGL Energy. The outlook on Qantas is negative. This means that there's roughly a 1 in 3 chance that the rating on Qantas may be downgraded.
The key to Qantas's recent problems has been its international business, which lost $200 million last financial year and has only made decent returns in 3 of the past 15 years.
We're not going to walk away from the business. We want to fix the business. And the best way of fixing the business is to implement the plan that we outlined a few months ago about the restructuring of the entire business, leveraging alliance partners, creating an Asian hub for a premium carrier to recover the significant loss of market share that we have.
It's very difficult. It's certainly true that under Australian, if you're having to pay Australian costs, you are going to not be able to fly the plane as cheaply as someone who's paying Singaporean or Middle East costs. Now, that doesn't mean that it's an impossible situation, but it really means that you've got to be maximising every opportunity to keep the costs reasonable.
For a time, it was a similar story at Australia's number 2 carrier, Virgin.
When I joined 16 months ago, the international network, the long-haul network, was losing over $60 million, and that was only with 4 aeroplanes.
John Borghetti spent 36 years with Qantas before joining Virgin Australia. He won't be drawn on his old firm's current woes, but says Virgin was able to turn around its international results this year.
By the time we got to June 30, our long-haul operation with the 777s broke even, and our international operation, which includes the flying by other aircraft type, actually made money. So I can prove that we are making money internationally, and certainly from our perspective, we will continue to make money internationally.
And now Virgin is looking to turn up the heat on Qantas at home as well, announcing plans to start a business class service along the east coast from next year and promising fares up to 30% cheaper.
Effectively, those routes have not had any business class competition since the day that Ansett stopped flying. And when you consider that, in particular, Melbourne-Sydney is the 4th busiest route in the world, you know, you have to believe that competition's required.
And it's not just Virgin jostling for market share. This week saw the launch of a new low-cost carrier, Air Australia, while Singapore Airlines has also opened a budget service which will fly to Australia.
Qantas operates in a global aviation industry. And if we want to survive and succeed, we must be free to pursue global opportunities.
Well, we do think that ultimately it's a very good company, that their position in the Australian market, 65% market share, with a very good product, means that it will be attractive for us over the longer term.
But with politicians and unions both trying to bring the flying kangaroo to heel, there are plenty of headwinds for Qantas and not much blue sky on the horizon.